Welcome to the Mike and JD Show YouTube channel. Thank you for being here. I want you to do me a big favor before you check out this clip. I want you to hit the like button. I want you to throw in a comment and make sure you're a subscriber to this channel. And then I want you to share this video with your friends. Help us defeat the algorithm. And then if you like this content and you appreciate this content, please head over to patreon.com/the Mike and JD Show and support the show. That is how we actually get funded to be able to do this. So we thank you very much for being here. And now enjoy the clip.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. A made no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This is an A game, better bring your A game. Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. A made no rain from the track.
He's simply ravishing.
I kind of wanted to just let it play under us the whole night.
This is my favorite WCW theme song of the era. It's the only decent thing off the Slam Jam album, which I think Michael Hayes wrote, to be honest with you. But
that doesn't surprise me. Yeah,
I just love the Rick Rude version. I truly do.
Yeah, I had to put the picture up that way YouTube doesn't get us, but I think it played I needed the people to see our enjoyment as we were listening to that and watching the video.
I will go on and on about my unabashed love for the second Rick Rude theme song forever. I was so disappointed when WWE inducted him on the Hall of Fame and they just used that corny saxophone music and they didn't use this one because they own it now and it's way better than the WWF one. I hate the WWF version.
It is, but they will never acknowledge that anything was ever better than anything that they did. Yeah, it's just not in them. Man, hey, so tonight we're doing Sting's Greatest Rivals. We're going to talk about the Dangerous Alliance. This is something that warms JD's heart. He's been looking forward to this for a long time. But before we do, JD, we have a little breaking news. Hold on, I'm going to hit the button.
Do you hear that?
What's that?
Do you hear that?
Yeah.
Do you hear that? That is the sound of a million Joshi nerds crying because Rossi Ogawa just got fired.
JD, I was going to hit the button. Hold on.
I don't care. I needed the button.
Breaking news.
Mike, I needed the silence to make my bit work. So I had to jump the breaking news bit.
It's all good.
So I haven't been on Twitter. We just recorded Superhero Speak. So I have not been on Twitter since the news broke. But are the Joshi nerds in fact really mad about this?
You know what? I haven't seen like anger about it. I think but I'll be honest, other than Scott, who is, like a Joshi historian, I don't really follow anybody that's like super hardcore Joshi.
I mean, neither. Now that you mention it.
Yeah, so I can't really answer that, but I can tell you somebody who's happy about it. Hold on, let me go to the share screen here. It's Tony Khan. He tweeted out just 16 minutes ago, "Bye, Rossi," with a gif of Larry David and the late great Richard Lewis.
Richard Lewis is dead? I didn't know that.
Hold on, let me Google that. Richard Lewis. Richard Lewis. Hold on, is he dead?
I don't.
No, he's alive. Sorry. Ah.
The fact he just killed Richard Lewis is a better set than anything we could have planned.
I was so sure that he had died. You know what? Hold on. Before I say it, let me Google it because I might have been thinking of somebody else. Hold on. Let me see.
Oh shit, that's funny.
Okay. No, Richard Belzer is dead.
Oh, Richard Belzer is dead.
Different 80s comedian. Yeah,
Oh,
Lewis.
shit.
Richard Lewis still very much alive. Sorry.
Despite Mike's best efforts to kill him. First thing of the show.
Oh, that's the worst.
Oh god, that's funny.
Richard Lewis is hilarious too.
He
by
is
the way.
hilarious.
I grew up watching a lot of his stuff. So
You know, him and Jamie Lee Curtis had a sitcom in the late 80s.
what was the name of that?
I don't remember.
You want to hear something weird? I don't know why, but I was like randomly thinking of a movie that Jamie Lee Curtis was in like the 80s or the 90s called Blue Steel.
I remember Blue Steel.
I don't know why, like it randomly just popped in my head. And so I started to look for it, and I didn't have a streaming service that currently had it, but I was like, I don't know why I want to watch Blue Steel,
She's a
but
cop,
I just want to check it out. Yeah, she's a cop in it.
Yeah, I remember that movie. It was at
Yeah.
when I worked at Blockbuster. I remember walking by. I don't remember if anybody ever rented it or not besides me, but I remember I very clearly I can see the box in my head of Blue Steel. This is why our show works, because we have like stupid memories. You know the movie Blue Steel? He goes, yeah, I know the movie Blue Steel.
Of course. Of course JD knows. Yeah. So we actually meant to start by talking some breaking news. So Rossi Ogawa, who has been essentially the executive producer for Stardom since its inception, really. Like he was like one of the co-founders of Stardom, wasn't he?
I think so. I believe he was with All Japan Women or Gaia. I forget which one.
He was. Yeah, no, he was. Actually, people are advocating, and I believe John Muse is one of those people actually advocating for him to be a member of the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame just for his contributions to Japanese wrestling, specifically women's wrestling. But here's the statement. It says the statement from Stardom on Ogawa's departure. Via their social media and digital channels, Stardom made the announcement that Rossi Ogawa's agreement with the promotion has been terminated. Alongside Nanae Takahashi, Ogawa co-founded Stardom, and in recent years, he's served as the promotion's executive producer. The promotion noted that he was trusted with tasks related to Stardom, and they learned that he has poached many wrestlers and staff members. So they're accusing Rossi Ogawa of being Todd Gordon of the ECW. Who was a famous poacher. Yeah,
the mole.
As a result, they've terminated his contract and no longer be serving in his executive producer role. And the Stardom announced that they apologized and noted that they'll continue to develop Stardom. Ogawa took to Twitter and notified that he was notified. Sorry, this is a very busy article from Post Wrestling. That his contract was being terminated. He added that the truth of the situation may be told someday, but for now, his concern is the wrestlers. Sean Ross Sapp, as well as some other folks, are saying that Rossi is WWE bound, which is quite interesting because WWE is looking to get into the Japanese market. And Rossi could be the conduit for them. And on tonight's Vengeance Day, NXT Vengeance Day, they aired a vignette that very much seemed like a new Japanese wrestler was coming in. And I would assume that's going to be Ricky Dozen, right? From New Japan. I'm sorry, Okada. Ricky Dozen will be his Ricky, and then like the space, and then Dozan. JD, nothing? Huh?
Terrible. It's a terrible joke.
Terrible. Okay. Very much likely Julia would be the person that I would presume that's what it would be.
I do like that you're trying to make the Ricky Dozan thing happen. I respect that you are resurrecting a joke that bombed on social media specifically for the show.
Yeah, it bombed on Twitter because nobody besides me, JD, and John Muse, and Dave Meltzer obviously
got the
knows
joke.
Ricky Dozan, the godfather of all Japanese wrestling. Nobody knows who that guy is, or the story of how he died, or anything like that.
Died with a piston-covered knife.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
From
I should say. From the Yakuza.
Yeah, from the Yakuza. But so Rossi Ogawa is out. And
So,
Julia, that's who I'm presuming. That's just a guess. That nobody's like reported that, and it could not be a Japanese wrestler, but the words on the screen were from like an old Japanese proverb, so I just assumed it'd be Japanese.
It's going to be very problematic if it's not in that case. I'll assume Julia until proven otherwise. It's interesting because I do think you're right about him looking to be a conduit. Like they've been looking to buy a promotion for a long time in Japan so they could kind of reset their NXT Japan thing there. And a lot of the Japanese media, not Japanese media, a lot of the Japanese promotions just out and out reject them wholeheartedly. The fan base of All Japan has rejected the Charlie Dempsey thing, and there hasn't been much talk about All Japan with NXT since then. So I don't know. Rossi kind of does his own thing. I mean, it definitely opens up a door for more Joshi to come to WWE. It helps him on the men's side because he's so closely associated with the women, but it's not good for Stardom. Like, I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. Is he replaceable? I'm sure that he is. I think everybody is. But yeah, we'll continue to. Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah, I think Brian Alvarez said that he's gonna have more tonight on Wrestling Observer Radio because him and Dave are gonna be on. So I'm sure they will have some more info. Then maybe we'll pull Scott over and see if he can talk to us on Mike and JD this week.
Japan's been wild. It's February 4th was we record this. Japan's been wild this year.
Yeah, it's Japan and America. It's like America for different reasons, obviously, but
America for different reasons. But Japan is like fun. Like these are fundamental changes in the fabric of Japanese professional wrestling. With Okada gone and Roshi Ogawa gone from Stardom, like Tanahashi taking over the presidency of New Japan, like this is massive.
Yeah, and Stardom is very much the number two promotion in Japan as far as like drawing and pay-per-view sales and all that stuff. I know they only have women talent, and so like the number 2 men's promotion would be Noah, but Noah is definitely number 3 behind Stardom when it comes to just overall promotion, right? Or would you put All Japan? They seem like they're doing pretty good.
All Japan's outdrawing Noah right now, I believe. So
are they? Are they?
I think so. That's what I think.
I'm probably the wrong guy to speak on this.
If you take out the Muda stuff from last year, Noah didn't do it as far as like selling tickets go. And New Japan, All Japan has been on a rise lately. So
I
think it might be All Japan at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they have probably the fucking best world champion in all of Japanese professional wrestling right now. And I love Naito, but he is not the same guy he was 5 years ago. No. And I love Dr. Wagner 3. I'm not calling him the full thing, but I like calling him Wagner 3. But Dr. Wagner 3, who just beat Keno. I love Keno. Yeah, dude. I think that's a marketable like T-shirt or a marketable name like DW3. Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, we should get our T Public store back and get kicked off one more time. Hey, we know a guy at Noah. Maybe we can make that a thing.
Yeah, we could talk to him. Tell him, hey, look, brother. Hey, look, I'm gonna sling these T-shirts. Make sure I don't get caught.
Or you guys should. We just want to cut.
Yeah. But we'll continue to talk about this story. We'll probably cover it this week on the Mike and JD show. Maybe we'll try to get Scotty on because Scotty knows all things. Joshi and JD and I do not. So,
nope.
But this is definitely a big story. Everybody's talking about it. But hey, let's go ahead and get into Sting, man. So Sting's greatest rivals. This is our the next part in our series. We've already done Vader and we've done Cactus Jack. And we're all kind of sticking around the same time period because I think JD and I just really love like early 90s pre Bischoff WCW, like Kip Fry, Jim Herd, and Bill Watts WCW. We just have, maybe just because of our age, but we love that shit.
It's unloved. I feel like we're only people that wax nostalgically for the early 90s WCW, and someone has to, quite frankly.
Yeah, that's probably why we started off as TNA podcasters because nobody loved that either. And like, here's us talking about it. And and a lot of people point back to the early 90s era of WCW before the NWO blew up as being completely terrible. And I'm like, guys, there are some gems in there. And one of those gems that we're going to talk about is Paul E. Dangerously forming the Dangerous Alliance. Now he had the Dangerous Alliance in AWA. He started it with he had the Midnight Express. Who else was in that group? It was Midnight Express, and who else? Do you remember?
Oh, man, I drew a blank. I forget who else was in the Midnight.
Okay.
I forget who else was in. I think it was just the Midnight, the quote unquote
The original, yeah.
even though it wasn't the
Yeah.
original Midnight Express. It's Randy Rhodes and Dennis Country. I just dropped that.
Yes.
Sorry, I just did superhero speak, so my brain is not firing 100%.
No, you're okay. I'm going to Wikipedia. So, yeah, Dangerous Alliance with Adrian Adonis. That's right.
Adrian Adonis. Forgot about that.
Yeah, and the Midnight Express. And then he ends up leaving AWA in I think 1988, and that's when they started the feud between the original Midnight Express and Jim Cornette's Midnight Express, where Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express turned babyface, which was a great feud. I really dug that feud, and I like the Jim Cornette, and like I'm probably me and you are probably the only two people on planet Earth that actually liked the tuxedo match between Jim Cornette and Paulie Dangerously.
That's accurate. I love the angle where the original Midnight Express invade the end up because they just show up on Crockett. No, it's not Crockett at that point. The Crockett sold to Turner. They show up on NW like World Championship Wrestling.
World Championship Wrestling, yeah.
Name of the show. And they bloody the fuck out of Cornette. Now it's funny because this is, I believe Dusty's still booking. Dusty, I gotta do the timeline, but Dusty had gotten in a lot of trouble for taking the spike to the eye from the Road Warriors and bleeding, right? But somehow in the same exact time frame, Jim Cornette goes out there with the white suit and Paulie Dangerously and the Midnight Express bloody the fuck out of him with the cell phone. You know, it's the Zach Morris cell phone for you 80s kids like us that know Saved by the Bell. And you never hear about that, but you always hear about the Dusty angle with the Road Warriors is what got him in trouble. And it's a very similar angle from the same era that I'm not sure if Dusty's already removed his booker by the time this happens or what, because very, very similar, and he doesn't get the flag, but it's an awesome angle. It's absolutely awesome on TV. When Jim Cornette cuts out, again, we're the only people that still like, you know, that aren't complete scumbags that can say some positive things about Jim Cornette. The man was a great performer in his heyday. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like, he was.
Yeah. I don't want him to teach an ethics course.
No.
Right. But in the 80s and 90s, he was very good at his job.
He was good at his job.
When it came to being an on-air performer. And so we'll just talk about that.
It's cuts a hell of a fiery babyface promo covered in blood. It's awesome.
Yeah.
That was a great angle. So yeah, continue.
Yeah. And so after that angle ends, surprise, surprise, the original Midnight Express, they skip town, and Paulie Dangerously is relegated to being an announcer. And so he did the announcing for a couple of years. He was on what was it, Power Hour, I think.
Power Hour, I believe, yeah.
Yeah. And then Dangerously was fired as an announcer by World Championship Wrestling. The precursors to resurrecting his stable came at the Halloween Havoc pay-per-view in 1991 in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Prior to the show, announcer Eric Bischoff was working as a valet in the parking lot, and when Dustin Rhodes and Barry Windham pulled up out of their car, the reigning World Tag Team Champions Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko ran up to Bischoff and Windham and slammed the car door in Wyndham's hand, breaking it. It was from this incident that Zbyszko gained his nickname from
the Cruncher.
This time called the Cruncher, which is one of the worst. I hated that nickname.
You know what I did like? I did like the tag team name of Anderson and Zbyszko. They were the Enforcers.
Yes, that makes total sense. Yeah. Yeah, it was a great name. Later in that same show, the mysterious WCW Halloween Phantom appeared and squashed old Tom Zink. Tom Zink was a big time guy getting squashed because the year before he got squashed by Big Van Vader at the Great American Bash. So if you need a guy to go get squashed, a handsome dude, Tom Zink's your guy, the Z-Man.
Jobber to the Stars, Tom Zink.
Yeah, Jobber to the Stars in a match using the reverse neckbreaker. So he comes out and he's wearing this stupid mask, and everybody in the arena knows it's Rick Rude,
Ravishing
right?
Rick Rude. He's got the mustache.
They know everybody.
The mustache is poking through the mask. It's so ridiculously clear because Rick Rude in that era, Rick Rude's a big jack dude, but he wasn't built like all the other steroid freaks of the era, right? He's got this really long torso, right? That was different. He just was built different than his contemporaries. So when he shows up, especially in a tight outfit like that, you're just like, oh, that's very clearly Rick Rude.
Yeah, well, they had the mustache and everything. So, and then what's crazy is they do the match, he squashes the guy, and then he just leaves. And then like later, they do an interview segment on the ramp. It was like
weird.
Just that was like WCW at its core, just very incompetent with the way that they structured their show. So if you go back and watch Halloween Havoc 91, there's some good stuff on there, but a lot of it is like the production's just not very good. So anyway, they have an interview segment with Bischoff, and they're on the ramp. Dangerously brought out the Phantom and had him unmasked to reveal the returning Ravishing Rick Rude. Dangerously stated that even though he'd been fired as commentator, he still had his manager's license and would use Rude to exact revenge on the company that fired him.
What a great angle. Now, the reasoning behind the angle itself is terrible. What they should have done, started this interview, bring the Halloween Phantom out, Dangerously does the whole thing, you get the tiger roar, he pulls up thing, it's Rick Rude, then he goes out and beats the shit out of Tom Snake.
Yes.
Right? That would have made much more sense than watching very obvious Rick Rude beat in a weird. They could have had him out there, do the Phantom thing, had the little thing in front of his face, and then boom, Ravishing Rick Rude. Dangerously cuts a pretty good promo that night. It was not just Dangerously. Rude has a valet as well as Dangerously.
Yeah.
Madusa.
Oh, yes. I think it actually gets to that. No, they actually did not in fucking Wikipedia.
No, yeah, she's there too.
She is there too.
Yeah,
they took it out of Wikipedia. Yeah.
That's stupid. Yeah, because she's there. Like Medusa's there from day one. Even when the Dangerous Alliance eventually splits, her and Rude stay. She leaves the company. Like they actually had pretty good chemistry, Rick Rude and Madusa. Yeah,
they did. And Heyman and Madusa worked well together. I thought they had great chemistry on screen.
And when they have the feud in 90 before Dangerously leaves in late 92, like it works really well. Like Dangerously, I mean, it's Paul. Paul's a great performer, and Medusa's just came along too early, right? If she comes along a decade later, I think she's a much bigger star across the world of wrestling than she is remembered to be. She was awesome. I was always a Medusa fan.
Yeah, me too. The storyline was furthered at Clash of the Champions. That was XV shit. That's 17. Sorry, I had to do it in my head. Clash of the Champions 17 in November. At the beginning of the Clash, which was televised live on TBS. WCW United States Heavyweight Champion Sting was in the ring doing an interview. Madusa came out dressed as a harem girl and distracted Sting, so Lex Luger could attack him from behind, clipping his knee. The same one Sting injured in February of 90, so they're still using that knee. That Sting has a bad knee angle.
Why not?
Luger then bashed. Yeah, of course. Luger then bashed the knee against the runway repeatedly to make it seem like Sting had suffered severe damage. Several face wrestlers, including Bobby Eaton, ran out to run the heel Luger off and take Sting to the hospital. Sting, however, had to defend his title against Rude that night and did not want to leave. Eaton kept telling him that he would have time, so he left. Eaton is a snake in the grass here. Bischoff rode in the ambulance with Sting and gave live updates on the condition of Sting from the hospital. Between the matches to announcers Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone. Meanwhile, Dangerously had found a loophole in the match contract that specifically stated that if Sting was not able to defend his title, he would have to forfeit it to Rude. The announcers relayed the message to Bischoff, who in turn passed it on to Sting. Commotion could be heard in the background as Sting tried to leave the hospital and return to defend his title, but it turned out Eaton had been conspiring with Dangerously and Rude to ensure Sting did not make it out in time for his defense.
Conspiring? Conspiring? That's what you said.
Is that what I said? Conspiring. Sorry. I did. Yeah, sorry. When it came time for the match, Sting was a no-show and Dangerously declared that Rude the United States Heavyweight Champion, which was the plan all along. The telecast featured a split screen of the ambulance arriving in the back of the arena with Sting's knee wrapped up. Dangerously demanded Nick Patrick start the match and count Sting out, but he kept interrupting the count, which allowed Sting enough time to make it out. After having trouble finding the right door to enter the building, like, okay, what's that? What's the name of that movie? Oh, fuck.
Spinal
Tap. Yeah. His fight song started playing and Sting limped out. Rude met him in the runway with punches, but Sting was so pumped he took it to him instead. The match was underway. Rude then defeated Sting, mainly because Sting had an injured knee, and Dangerously announced the formation of the Dangerous Alliance, which included Rude, Eaton, Anderson, Zbyszko, Madusa, and stunning Steve Austin gets added to the mix. That is one hell of a fucking faction there, man, and they just never got their due.
I thought you were going to tell me that MJF won that match and successfully defended the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. Because it was way better when Sting did it. So in this promotion, we have, because what they did was they needed to have, the problem was Luger. They wanted to get Sting to the World Heavyweight title, but Luger's out of contract dates at this point. He's already told the WCW office that he's leaving when his contract expires in February to go to the World Bodybuilding Federation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So Luger can't, and he's like, yeah, and you guys have used all my dates, so I'm just going to go home. So again, I think the only thing he does is this clash and Starrcade before putting Sting over at Super Brawl in February. This is November, so they dragged this out. So what are you going to do to keep Sting busy for several months? So they went back to the Horseman formula. Now, the Horseman existed to make life hard for Dusty Rhodes in the mid to late 80s, right? So now you had to have a similar version to make life hard for Sting. So when 4 Horsemen were good, why not 5? So that's what you have here. You have the tag team that it's Anderson and Zbyszko. Eventually it goes back to Anderson. It goes to Anderson and Eaton on the next tag team. Because on that same clash, Go and Anderson lose the WCW tag team titles to Dust and a mystery opponent. Do you recall who the mystery opponent was on that night, Mike?
Well, he came out in a big dragon costume and nobody could figure it out. Literally nobody could figure out the guy who just left the WWF for, I think, the second or third time at this point. Was second time.
Might have been the third, actually.
What? Because he was on. Oh, it's Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Sorry, I keep teasing that I. Yeah. So he came in for like the early WrestleManias. Then after WrestleMania 3, he left. He comes back to WCW to do the deal with Flair, and then he goes back to WWF, and he's only there for like a year. This is like spitting fire Steamboat. And
the Dragon. He's not even Ricky Steamboat. He goes back.
Yeah,
he's just the Dragon.
Yeah, dude. I wonder if I could pull that up. But yeah. So but I think once they introduced Eaton to the mix, everybody knew that Zbyszko was basically shot at that point. Like he could still cut a promo, but he was not interested in having good matches. And Bobby Eaton could fucking still go. I think Eaton and Arn Anderson, that was the team that you want to go with.
Mm-hmm. And they do. They want to be a good tag team. So you need to have a transitional tag team, and you need to have an over moment. And bringing Ricky Steamboat back as Ricky the Dragon, because this is like my favorite version of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. It's where you have all the dragon accoutrement that he picked up at WWF. So he's blowing the fire. He's got the dragon wings, but he's Steamboat. So he abandons the karate stuff. He doesn't wear the gi anymore. He's figured, hey, I spent all this money on getting this dragon costume made. He loses the headdress. But he figured, hey, I learned this fire blowing skill. I might as well use it. And he did. He was that version of Ricky Steamboat till the end of his career in '94. Right. So that's pretty cool. And then you transition, you eventually get those belts back onto the newest Danger Alliance tag team. And now what's interesting too is and this is Dangerously calls this. He said that he adds the hottest young rookie in pro wrestling stable, right? And then in one stunning Steve Austin, the WCW World Television Champion at the time. And he says this man will be the wrestler of the 2000s. Damned if he wasn't right.
Yeah, if only he wrestled longer in the 2000s, you know what I mean? Like, but he was like he was wrestler like from like 1997 all the way to 2003. Like he had a good 6-year run on top, and Dangerously, he fucking nailed it. He had the foresight that Eric Bischoff just didn't have.
And well, again, the stunning Steve Austin gimmick is fine for 1991. Actually great in 1993 with Flying Brian. What a great tag team.
Yeah.
But at that point, they when he loses the US title to, I want to say it's to Steamboat. They did the whole stupid thing where Steamboat is, and then they bring Duggan out, and then it's the Hogan 94 show is awful. But then at that point, they have no idea what to do with Steve Austin. And Steve Austin needs to become that angry superstar human being to get to Stone Cold. So that. Like he needed to find another level of himself because he absolutely plateaus in 1994. Like as a worker, as a personality, like he's on the come up, and then he absolutely hits a plateau, and you don't get much more out of him until he shows up in ECW. So to be fair,
and then
go ahead.
Well, he had been there, and he'd probably been promised that he was going to get past that, United States heavyweight championship level. He got some title shots against Ric Flair, like on TV, and he never could get past that spot. And then he kept getting injured. Yeah, like I think he had a torn tricep. Hello, CM Punk. He had a torn tricep. He didn't do so well in Japan, and he comes back, and then all of a sudden Hulk Hogan's in, and then next thing you know, Hacksaw Jim Duggan's in there. The Nasty Boys had been there, but like Tugboat.
Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah, Honky Tonk shows up.
The Shockmaster had been there before too. But yeah, so Steve Austin just finds like not on, he was he becomes one of the old guard. So he bounces out. But yeah, so he is the young gun of the hot young the heel side, because Sting had allied himself with the hot young star on the babyface side and Dustin Rhodes. So these two have a very interesting parallel going for the first like 2 years of their career, because like they were rivals and they were like always kind of passing each other. Train coming through, hello Davis Junction train, of course. So like it's interesting that these two guys were on these interesting career paths, and they eventually meet up in WWE, where Steve Austin kind of goes to the top and Dustin Rhodes hits a huge career plateau, mainly due to his own personal demons. So he never quite achieves that level that a lot of people thought he might, but Steve Austin returns in 2003, and Dustin's still going strong in 2024.
Yeah, Dustin's still having really good matches out there. Dustin looks today like he did whenever he was the Natural in like 1991, where he was having those awesome matches with Stone Cold, with Stunning Steve Austin and Shane Douglas and Ricky Steamboat and all those guys.
Dustin is an amazing story. He truly is, just how good he is. And unfortunately, he never really gets to be that main event guy that everybody thought he would have. It turns out neither is his brother, but like
more to come on that later.
More to come. But yeah, so you have these two young guys, and you have Sting, and like it's so funny because we're going to talk about this WarGames match, and I just love how everyone is like a parallel. Like there's so many interesting parallels on these teams. Like it's really, really well booked. Like, so you have the Dangerous Alliance, which is Sting's version of the Horsemen. And again, it's really to give him something to do while kind of pausing the Luger feud, right? Because Luger, it's weird because they use Madusa, but that's like it. Like Luger, like the Alliance is working kind of for Luger, but I mean, like it's like never outright just like, oh, these guys are helping Lex Luger. It's like, no, Rude's more interested in doing his own thing. It's like Rude's squad. Like the Dangerous Alliance is Rude's Horsemen. Like, and they brought in Rude as the new hot top heel, and they give him his own stable, and it's really quite effective, actually.
Yeah. So the Alliance went on to dominate WCW for the next 6 months. Anderson and Eaton, as JD said, they won the tag team championship. Austin held the television championship for a time. Their main feuds were with Sting, Steamboat, Barry Windham, Dustin Rhodes, and Nikita Koloff. The Alliance and its rivals went back and forth until they settled their issue in a gruesome WarGames match at WrestleWar 1992. And JD and I are actually going to sit here and watch it. So we're going to pause talking about WarGames. But so their downfall, we'll just go to the end of where they were at. Their downfall, Rude and Madusa went their own separate way after this match and had much success. Anderson and Eaton started running with Michael Hayes, but they came back to Dangerously when they fired Madusa publicly at Halloween Havoc in October. And after she came in, Austin went on to form a tag team with Fly and Brian. By the end of November 92, after the Clash of Champions, the Dangerous Alliance had been disbanded after Dangerously left in a bitter contract dispute, which I'm pretty sure he sued WCW over.
And won.
And then, what's that? And won. He won a lot of money in that. I skipped over the part where Zbyszko, after the WarGames match, was expelled from the Alliance, which I think they were just trying to get Zbyszko out of the ring for the most part and into the announce booth. Because Zbyszko comes over kind of like in the dying days of the AWA, and he was never really a guy that Vince Jr. was going to bring over to the WWF. So he was there. Because it's crazy, but like But look at Zbyszko. He looks like he eats a hot dog before he goes out to the ring. He's still in shape, but
I
like he's
know,
just not one of their guys.
but the only reason I say it is because Zbyszko drew so much money for them.
Yeah.
Like Zbyszko versus Bruno Sammartino, and I get it. You're right. Zbyszko doesn't fit what Vince sees, but the man can cut a promo, and the Bruno feud. But again, they're so far away from that at that point. It's just
And they don't even like at that point they were not even acknowledging that those
Bruno
matches even existed.
I know.
Yeah, but anything pre 1984 they didn't even want to talk about. Like they would
right.
rarely talk about anything like that. So as far as they were concerned, he didn't exist. So
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
even when they brought over Sergeant Slaughter, it was like, hey, we're seeing Sergeant Slaughter for the first time, despite the fact that he was one of their top drawing guys previously.
In 1984. Like,
Yeah.
it's just it's again, Slaughter doesn't, especially Slaughter in 1990 wasn't exactly a body guy either, but he was also Sergeant Slaughter. So
he was Sergeant Slaughter. He was a major star, and we were in the middle of a war, and they needed a heel for Hogan. So, and they knew Slaughter could get the, yeah, which was the original one. So Dangerous Alliance, man. As far as I'm concerned, I know they didn't have very long, like maybe like a year. But I would put this like right at the top of my favorite factions of all time. It's like right up there. It's like in my like top 5. Like obviously the Horsemen is always going to be number 1 to me, and then NWO is right in there too. But I think I just love this crew.
What kind of kills the Dangerous Alliance is that it wasn't a Bill Watts thing, and they become a victim to Watts coming in, and this is a Kip Allen Fry era angle, right? And so Watts comes in and he wants to do his own thing, and like he didn't want Heyman on the contract to begin with. That's the problem with Heyman and WCW were all Bill Watts related. So I mean, it's unfortunate because this faction could have been great, like because you could have. Eventually, I think you could have done something with Rude and Austin, like on opposed sides, right? I don't know who becomes the babyface in that scenario, but I mean, like, it's right there because Rude's kind of mentoring Austin a little bit. So, I mean, like, you could have done, there's so much you could have done with the Dangerous Alliance that unfortunately it kind of gets shortchanged a bit. But at least we have this awesome match. It's probably the best WarGames match ever, in my opinion, personally.
I think it's hard. I don't like people comparing like WCW War Games to AEW Blood and Guts.
Different.
I mean,
they're different.
I know they're set up similar, but it's like you're comparing eras to eras. You know what I mean? It's like AEW has more like production and bells and whistles and gaga, and then the WWE War Games, they don't put a top on the cage. They open it up for more gimmicks and all their gaga, and then TNA Lockdown doesn't even count to me because they just put a top. They put a topper on top of the cage. So I like to rate them differently from each other, and so of all of the WCW War Games matches, this is by far my favorite.
Agreed. And I think of the War Games matches themselves, it's my favorite. It's all War Games. Like I love this one because it gets out of the Horsemen, right? So many of the War Games matches were so associated with the Horsemen, and even though Arn's right there, it feels different having these guys in there.
Yeah. So you got so here we're gonna go to War Games here in just a sec. So guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, because we are going to be clipping this for YouTube and adding it to our the Mike and JD Show YouTube channel for Sting Week coming up, which we're pretty excited about. We're gonna have to block the actual like footage, so JD will be like editing that part out. So, but on Patreon, like Patreon is like old school. It's like, it's like 80s wrestling to where you can just play the music. Like Patreon doesn't care. So if you want to watch the match along with JD and I, where you can actually see the match and you can see us, you can go to Patreon, patreon.com/the Mike and JD Show. So that's if you're watching it on YouTube, but here we'll go ahead. Let me just introduce the match. So WrestleWar. So, the main event was a War Games match in which Sting's Squadron, military deal, Sting, Barry Windham, Dustin Rhodes, Ricky Steamboat, and Nikita Koloff, that's a hell of a team, had defeated the Dangerous Alliance, Steve Austin, Rick Rude, Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton, and Larry Zbyszko. Good stuff. Let me go to the share screen here, and we'll bring up the match. Boom. Let me pull out my peacock. All right.
This is Patreon, not OnlyFans.
Yeah, here we go. All right. Is it playing?
No.
Okay. I'm gonna.
That's hilarious pyrotechnics in this day and age. One little screamer.
Here it comes. The most ominous, the most intimidating structure.
God, Jim Ross is great.
Yeah, he is. And get well soon, Jim Ross. I think he just had another tumor removed. Yeah,
from his hip, I believe.
Yeah.
I love purple and gold WCW. Right?
Yeah.
Like I see that banner, that cheap ass looking banner, that just makes me happy. Gary Michael Capetta.
I very much like Gary Michael Capetta over Dave Pinzer, by the way.
It's not great. He's had a long career in this business, but I loved Penzer's work. I'll say this about WarGames. As much as I love these matches, when they explain it, it's kind of convoluted.
It really is a convoluted match.
Like I can hear Mike today going, it's quite simple, really.
So 7 periods in WarGames. First period 5 minutes. All other periods 2 minutes. One man from each team enters, and then you can only enter one at a time. And so at some point, one team is always going to have an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't make any sense. You know what else didn't make sense, JD? Did you watch the Escape the Cage match from Collision a couple weeks ago?
I know I did. I heard. No, I've been on a break.
So it was FTR versus the House of Black, and rumor has it, Will Washington came out and squashed the rumor. So did Brody King, but I think the rumor's hilarious. Rumor has it they had to do an Escape the Cage because much like Bruno, Malachi Black or Aleister Black, whatever his name is, doesn't like to do jobs. So they had to, one by one, like each member of the team had to escape. So when you escape, you automatically give your opponents an advantage and leave your team, you leave them there in the ring with an unfair advantage. So
where's the logic of that?
So they were down to the final 3 members, and it was I think it was like Buddy Murphy and Malachi Black, and Daniel Garcia was in the ring. And I think one of FTR was in the ring, and then the guy leaves, and they just leave Daniel Garcia in the ring by himself to fight 2 people.
Why would they do that?
And then they're like, wait a minute, this is a bad idea. So then they try to go back into the cage, and they couldn't get back into the cage, and so they just beat the shit out of him. It's like, who booked this crap? It was but don't get me wrong, like those are great wrestlers, and I thought they executed everything really well, but the psychology was broken.
Okay, is that like a parody or a call out of why WWE Escape the Cage psychology is dumb? Like, is this like a commentary on that? Was this match done to show just how dumb the Escape the Cage thing is? Because otherwise it makes absolutely no sense.
If so, that's not a great use of your television.
I didn't say it was a great use of television. I was just asking a question.
I think the whole thing is that look, we got to hand it to Malachi Black. He's been working in AEW with this severe back issue that he has, and what's going on with his back is that he cannot lay on his back with his shoulder touching the mat for more than 3 seconds at a time, and it's a very serious back injury, and I hope he gets well soon. You know, that was a good joke, but JD's feed just cut out, and he totally missed the joke. But here comes the Dangerous Alliance. Just looking like badasses.
I have had the privilege of seeing every WarGames here on pay-per-view.
All right.
And I can tell you, after being in the sport for 20 years, there is nothing.
So confession time. Here's confession. Not off the feed. I had an alarm set on my phone that started going off, and I used the phone as a camera.
JD, so take your pill.
Good one. I love this fucking Sting song, dude. We agreed last time that this is the best Sting song. So what I love about the psychology going into this match is Sting and Koloff are on the same side, and less than a year earlier they were enemies in the chain match at Great American Bash 91. Excuse me. So can they coexist?
Can they coexist? Still alive and well to this day.
The tropiest of trophy wrestlers.
It is. I like this era of Koloff, but he does not look as menacing as he did in the 80s. He drops a ton of weight.
Well, he's off the juice at this point.
Yeah.
And his career is also about to end. We didn't even mention this last time. he got hurt in a Vader match and he was done. He never wrestled again.
Oh, I thought he quit because he didn't want a job to Sting, and that's why they brought in Cactus Jack. That was in '91, but it looks like he came back right after that.
This is after.
Yeah.
This is post that.
Yeah.
He gets hurt in a match with Vader and is done. I love this. I love them plot. Like, so you don't get this is you got the guy making the strategy. Like Paul is a coach here, and he plays the role so well. He's like 29, 30 here, and he looks 43.
He does. He took the name Paulie Dangerously because of Michael Keaton. That movie, Johnny Dangerously. Yeah. And when
Johnny
Paul
Dangerously?
E was like, I have.
Okay, me too. I like.
It's been a long time. It's been a long time. Yeah, I liked anything Michael Keaton in the '80s. I thought he was great.
Mary Lou Henner is the love interest in that movie. She grew up in neighborhood, the same neighborhood as my mom. I always thought she was incredibly hot. Chick from Taxi.
Yeah. So here we got Stunning Steve and Barry Windham. Look, this is when wrestling was wrestling.
Really,
like these guys could freaking sling them fists.
Yeah, Barry's still really good here. His work doesn't start dropping until like 94. Like, God, Barry, people forget about how big Barry Windham was.
Oh, yeah. But in like 94, he returns to WCW and he's like 350 pounds.
Fat. He's so
heavy.
Fat. Like Barry, and again, he's only like 32 here. He's still super young. Austin with some,
but he had been wrestling since he was like 16, and the booze and the pills and the lifestyle got to him.
Hard life, man. Steve Austin with some rainbow colors and the words Austin on his trunks. Definitely not tough guy looking stuff here. But this is like, so this is how much trust Steve Austin's been in the business like 2 years at this point. And he's such a good worker that he's chosen to carry the load in the WarGames match. Because again, this is the 5-minute period. So you need to have this is oftentimes in the WarGames match where your two best workers are out there. And again, it's Barry Windham, known for years as an amazing worker, and Steve Austin, a kid in the grand scheme of this. So that just shows you what a play Austin was.
And look at the workers he's surrounded with. Like, like one would think that 2 years into it, they wouldn't put Steve. They'd put Eaton in that spot because Eaton was probably out of everybody. As far as in ring like talent, well, not in like in ring goes, he's probably the best out of all of them. I think a lot of them would probably say that, but he wasn't the biggest star or anything. But he was probably one of the best all-around in-ring performers there ever was.
And Arn Anderson standing right next to him. So you could have gone, I think Arn started a lot of those horseman cage matches. Barry Windham had an underrated leaping DDT. He used to call that the implant. Edge adopted it, I should say, years later. I always liked that a lot. But that's how much they trust Austin. What a nod of confidence from the office to say, hey man, you can handle this. Like, we don't, like, people get mistaken about that Steve Austin was just this punch kick guy. But I mean, like when he was young before that neck injury, the dude could work, man.
Dude, yeah, he could really go, and he could really go at like a super young age. I think he was in WCW by like what, 1990?
I think either late 90 or early 91 he joins WCW. And again, he's been in the business like a year and a half at that point. And one of the major companies like, oh yeah, we're gonna take you. You're good. Like, you just don't see.
You know, it's so funny. It's so funny. You hear Steve Austin tell it that he spent. You would think he spent decades on the indie scene, but really it was like a year and a half. But like he was talking about like all the years he had to ride down the roads in Texas and Memphis and all the play, and it was really like a year and a half.
Right. Which again, it's an important year and a half in his life. But I mean, like, you know who's a fair comparison to him is MJF.
Yeah, I would say so.
Just in the youth and how great a heel he was, and like, you know, just how much trust people had in him very young in his career. You know what makes this good too is Jim Ross's commentary. And like we talked the last time about how underrated Ross and Jesse Ventura are because they hate each other, but they're just like they got like this nasty chemistry between them where their dislike of each other like pours out.
Yeah. I've always been a big, like, Jesse's one of my favorite commentators.
Oh, all time. He's like the best.
I love Jesse.
Dude, to be fair, Steve Austin's head is already busted open, and we're 4 minutes.
It's war games,
So,
baby.
I saw this match for the first, probably 93, and it was on a compilation VHS of Sting compilation VHS tape. And I remember watching this going, oh my God, they're bleeding. Because in the early 90s, like this is, I think that after this, they didn't bleed a lot in WCW for a while. Like this
if it was like Cactus doing like hard ways, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But this is like old school. Like I can't. It's such a hard. This match sticks out in this era because they weren't doing this then. They weren't bleeding. Like it was very homogenized. This is the early Turner era, and it's like these 10 guys are just like, fuck it, we're going old school tonight. And it adds to the match because it's so freaking brutal. And look,
I want to get a close up of that coin. By the way, I don't think that was a legitimate coin toss. Oh, and here comes Rick Rude. Like Rick Rude before he got hurt, man.
Oh,
he was so freaking great.
He was. That's what I'm saying. Like, who's the worst? The worst worker in this match is Nikita Koloff, right?
Yeah.
And he was a star.
Yeah.
Like, and again, look at Rude has this intensity and nastiness to every time he's out there, right? And he's just like I said, look at that unique body, like thick, like not like long torso, long, just nasty though. It is like just chiseled from stone. I just love this. I love this era of Rick Rude because I think this is some of the best work of his career, like 91, 92. Before it was bad,
when
really bad.
He'd come off of all of those world title matches with Ultimate Warrior in like 1990, and I think it was like SummerSlam 1990 in a steel cage with Warrior. Like that's an underrated, like awesome match. I think nobody wants to give anybody credit because I mean, and Rude carried it clearly, but that was a really fucking good match.
Dude, Warrior's best matches in WWF were with two guys, Savage and Rude. Like, remember, think about him and Rude, they'd worked together. And part of the reason why it didn't draw is because Warrior had beaten Rude. Like, they worked each other, like, for the first 8 months of 1989, right? Because they had the pose down at Rumble 90, or Rumble 89, and then they had the match at Mania 5 and the rematch at SummerSlam 89. So Warrior had, like, won that feud. I think people didn't buy Rude as a challenger, but they kind of had to go with it because Rude is the only dude in WWF that could get a good match out of the Warrior until Savage did later on.
Yeah.
God, he was so good. Here we go. First babyface coming in. Oh, it's going to be Ricky Steamboat with clearly a broken nose, I guess. Steamboat and Rude feud too at the later part of the year. They have that 30-minute Iron Man match at Beach Blast. Probably 2 months later, I want to say.
That's probably one of those, like, we should probably just do one of these where we just watch that match, too. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Because I don't think people
it's been a long time since I've seen that one. No, because we talked
DDT.
about Sting versus Cactus. Look at that.
That's not something you see very often. Steamboat hitting DDTs.
Steamboat's probably like 37 here, and they're calling him like kind of like the old guy. And he's probably like the best guy in the match.
He's a decade younger than AJ Styles. The greatest baby. He's like one of the greatest baby faces in history. Again, Ricky Steamboat, incredible worker. Like the talent they had in WCW this year. Steve Austin just did like a Conan style clothesline into the rope. See, I kind of miss the low cage like this where you could do cool stuff like that.
I think Brian Pillman doesn't like it.
No, Brian Pillman, not a fan. Well, Sid was a dickhead trying to. Like, Sid almost murdered him. Powerbomb. Because Pillman's face just goes into the cage, and I'm sure that wasn't good for his neck.
After they hurt J.J. Dillon and then they hurt Pillman, they were like, "Oh shit, try to stay away from the top of the cage."
I think, but Steamboat's hanging from the thing. Just did a Hurricane Rana, which again in 1992, not something you saw a lot of from people in the U.S. who weren't Scott Steiner.
Yeah,
I guess this is a good
when
match.
Steiner would do it, he would actually. When Steiner would do it, it was like a DDT when he did it. Everybody else does it. It's just like a reverse roll.
Steiner tried to murder you with it because it's Rick Steiner or Scott Steiner, excuse me.
Yeah.
Barry Windham looking very Hulk Hogan with the long blonde hair and the yellow trunks here.
if he would have just did a little bit more with his upper body, he probably could have had a run against Hogan.
That's
back in
probably
the day, but yeah.
they were so like when he comes in as the Widowmaker in 1989, that's the plan, is to give him a run with Hogan. And unfortunately, that kind of there's DDTs in this match. I don't want to hear about people spamming finishers ever again. They're supposed to have Hogan and Windham are supposed to work together, but that's the same time that oh my god, the spine buster on Steamboat really killed him. To have a run with Windham and Hogan, but that's the time that Blackjack and Kendall get in trouble with the counterfeiting. So Barry goes home to kind of take care of family.
Yeah. Well, and the Widowmaker was not like it wasn't like a gimmick that was going to draw,
I love the way that sounds, the Widowmaker. I named a character in one of my books that, but what the hell does it mean? Like, you make widows? Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's not.
And then in like 96, they call him the Stalker.
Which
is completely worse because he's supposed to be like a hunter gimmick, but when you think Stalker, you think like Robert De Niro. You know what I mean? In Cape Fear, or the fan, like that's what you think of.
Robert De Niro's a good one because he played quite a few of them in his career. Taxi driver. Like now that you mention it, he's played him a lot. Like
he's great.
That's just Vince being fucking out of touch. But that's a great pile driver.
Yeah,
the leaping pile driver is one of the most beautiful moves you can see. God damn. Dude, look who's in the ring. The freaking legends in this ring right now. And people try to tell me this era of WCW is bad.
It was like it was never the talent. It was just the incompetent people running the company.
I know. But watch this and tell me it's bad. You can't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many gems.
Steamboat. Oh, that double close. God, that's so pretty.
I love how gritty this cage looks.
Oh, I know. It's gnarly looking. Like it looks like something you lock people up in for a fight. And I like they didn't need kendo sticks and garbage cans. These dudes just want to fuck each other up. They just hate each other. And here's guys that had a million matches together. Arn Anderson and Dustin Rhodes also wearing very Hogan-esque gear tonight.
Yeah. Ooh.
He hit his head on that.
He sure did.
Dustin's
so great.
He's so good. And the newsletter readers in this era would just bitch about him because he's Dusty's kid. Oh, he's getting over pushed. No, Dustin was good, man.
Yeah. Like Dustin nepotism is like a real problem and a real thing in wrestling. But whenever somebody's really good, don't play the nepotism card. Like you got to get over it after a while.
Like it's okay to be the son of a legend or the son of a booker if you're good at it. Like Dustin Rhodes was awesome. He's so good here. Like this is before drugs really slow him down, and like he's still in shape and he's intense and he can go. God, this is so cool. And again, Dustin and Austin, their chemistry together is just unreal. Oh
yeah, it is. So their match, it's they had several matches on pay-per-view, but man, Starrcade '93 was a really good one.
Yes, it was for the U.S. title.
Yeah. A cruncher, Larry Zbyszko. I can't believe they tried to get that over.
You got to say it like Jesse, though. The cruncher, Larry Zbyszko.
A cruncher, Larry Zbyszko. Hey, do you know that there's a PBS in Minnesota has a Jesse Ventura documentary out? It's for free online. I got to watch it soon. I'm going to have to watch it. But yeah, it's for
I do want to watch that.
Yeah, I love Jesse. I love that he's crazy.
He's nuts. And he's always been nuts. Like this is the guy that was wearing Plato's Retreat shirts on kids television in the 1980s. Like advertising that that him and his wife live the swinger lifestyle. Like that dude was
and then he became governor.
I know.
Well,
I love this part. Madusa bare ass feet in a cocktail climbing up the top of the cage, which is not. This is not the Mick Foley cage, which we know it had. And that cage is way more reinforced than that. And then Sting's big ass following her up there. Like this cage looks like it's about to buckle.
Yeah, they put no safety precautions in this cage whatsoever.
No reinforcement whatsoever. Like that thing, like Sting knows if he takes one more step to the middle, that shit is gonna collapse, and it's all on Madusa. Like she's barefoot up there. What a fucking
What a
trooper
beast.
she was.
You know, she had such a great career as a monster truck driver, and my daughter, she used to watch this cartoon called Blaze and the Monster Machines, and she got like really into monster trucks. I was like, "Do you want to see a girl drive a pink monster truck?" And she said her eyes just got real big. She's like, "Yeah." So I showed her Madusa doing monster trucks. Like Madusa's like doing backflips, and she's out there with like tougher than the dudes out there. And she was like a legit monster truck driver.
Mike, did I ever tell you what my first job was?
Monster Jam, right?
I worked for Monster. Madusa and I were co-workers. I edited Monster Jam commercials for 2 years. Believe it or not, more than one commercial. We had to tailor the commercials to every market, and they were all the fucking same. I remember one summer when the season was off, I was watching commercials from 1984, and they were identical to what we were doing in 2006, and it broke me. It absolutely broke me. I'm like, we can't do anything creative. We have not improved monster truck commercials in 20 years. And I'll see Monster Jam commercials today, and I'm like, those look the exact same as the things I was doing in 2006, 2007. Here's the Stinger.
Here comes Sting, and they're attacking Arn Anderson.
Sting, underrated bulldog. I always loved the Sting bulldog. He just grabbed you by the hair. Stinger's bench, like military
slam him
pressing
into the cage. Yeah,
into the cage.
Doing the Steve Williams spot, and the Road Warrior spot.
Yeah, Williams did it too, though. '89.
Yeah,
that's a classic. That's a classic WarGames spot. Sting with a very neon lime green shade of trunks here.
Yeah, that's the early '90s for you, man.
Oh, nothing is more early '90s. God, what a bump! Was that Arn? It was Austin. Austin's a machine in this match.
Yeah,
Austin's a freaking machine. He has taken all the abuse here, which you only do that if you're a good worker.
Mm-hmm.
She's just taping up Madusa taping up Bobby Eaton's wrist. He's about to go in there and
I love when they rub the face into the cage.
They don't do that spot nearly as much as they used to. That was always a big spot in cage matches in the 80s and 70s too. We just grind the head against the cage and we would draw the blood. Oh, good shit. Again, the legends in this ring. Everybody's a Hall of Famer. Everybody. Right, like look at that. Everyone in the Windham isn't, which is stupid.
Wow. But the only guy not doing anything really is Zbyszko.
Yeah, well, we're talking about Larry Zbyszko here. He just got punched in the head.
In this thing. Yeah.
He's got to get a golf course tomorrow morning. He can't be sore.
Yeah.
Here comes beautiful Bobby.
Remember in like 97 or I think in like 1998, Eric Bischoff, because he's an AWA guy, tried to convince everybody that Larry Zbyszko was like going to be a big time star and a guy to come back. So he comes out of the announce desk and
I remember
just didn't have it. Yeah.
The match. It's 97. That's 5 years
97.
after this.
Yeah.
He had the match with Scott Hall.
And then he was supposed to have a match with the Spicoli, but Spicoli died.
Spicoli died, that's right. Man, the late 90s were a fucked up time. Here's Bobby. Yeah. Bobby's so damn good too.
I could watch Bobby Eaton wrestle like every day.
He's so good. Like and
he's so. The only thing that hurt him is that he just kind of looks like a guy who works at a gas station.
Yeah,
like he looks like he's going to sell you Marlboros behind the counter. You know what I mean?
He just looks like a dude from like Memphis with his mullet, and like he just kind of looks like if you saw that guy in public, you'd be like that's a big dude, but like he's not intimidating or anything like that. He's just a dude who was very good at his job, very workmanlike.
Yeah.
Yeah, one chop from Steamboat and Zbyszko slinging like he's dying. This is the best too, because you look at the ring here, the ring's starting to fall apart. And this is like,
Yeah.
this was the first time, like AEW's done this lately quite a bit where they destroy the ring in these matches. But this was the first time I remember seeing a ring being destroyed
here.
in the match.
Well, because
Like,
they're trying to undo that turnbuckle, not the turnbuckle pad. They're trying to
The
unscrew it
turnbuckle.
from the post and then like take it off and hit him with it.
And the WCW turnbuckle is like the AEW turnbuckle, where it's a giant fucking hook. Right. And again, that giant fucking hook
which
with Cash
fucked up
Wheeler's
FTR.
arm. Yeah. Cash Wheeler had to have major surgery to repair it. And that's what they have here in WCW. It's just a hook. And they're gonna assault each other with the hook. And here comes Nikita. Again, the big thing with Nikita here is, can him and Sting trust each other?
Can they coexist?
Nikita is always so over with this fan base. Now the match beyond begins. Oh, Jim Ross and I said it at the exact same time. Anderson knows. Arn with Nikita. He punches you, you bump. He throws you into the cage, you bump like you've been killed.
You know what's so funny? Like Nikita is like 45 pounds lighter than he was in his prime, but he's still really fucking huge.
He's just naturally a big fucking dude. Yeah, here's the problem with Sting and Nikita. Right here it comes. Can Sting and Nikita trust each other? Can Sting? Oh, Nikita just pushed Sting out of the way so he could take the blow. And this is like, this is such a great storytelling part in the match here, because like they both reverse, and here comes the sickle and the clothesline, and now Sting gets fired up and Nikita, and now they're gonna hug. They do the bro hug here. God, this is fucking great wrestling. Listen to those fan base, right? That's
They're
a
going
year
crazy.
and a half
This is
storytelling.
Yeah, and they're going crazy in Tennessee. Like, kudos to this fucking Chattanooga crowd, because they were crazy this whole match.
Because it's fucking awesome, dude. If pro wrestling is awesome, fans go crazy for it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
like if the crowd is silent during your match, it's not their fault. Like it's probably something to do with you.
Your fault. Your fault. If you have a match out there, especially one like, and the fans aren't going ape shit, you fucked up. Which
I just remembered why Dustin Rhodes and Barry Windham were in the same trunks. It's because they're a tag team. I just remembered that. It's like, why are they both wearing yellow? It's like, oh, that's right, they were a tag team. Barry ends up turning on him after a while.
Shortly, that's summer. He's got the Scorpion. Now that's the match beyond is going on. It's only submission or surrender. And it takes forever for Bobby Eaton. Got to climb under 2 sets of ropes to get there. And Bobby's got the turnbuckle, the hook.
Yeah, the hook.
There's 2 ropes. Oh, man, this is so cool. I just love how this is. I recently rewatched the Adam Copeland AEW debut, and the ring being absolutely annihilated helps make that. Like them beating the shit out of each other on the hardwood. So cool.
I always love the gimmick of pulling up the ring, the covering and exposing the wood.
It's so raw,
dude.
Is this awesome? Look at Austin working here.
Oh, he's just covered in blood, and like the blood is stuck on the turnbuckle pad.
Austin is just dripping, and he's working so hard here. He is bumping for everybody.
In the Impact, LAX had a match in like I want to say 2019 where they actually exposed the boards the entire time, and it was the craziest match I've ever seen, because at any moment like the boards just kept slipping from under them, and then they realized it was a bad idea, but they have to just keep going. And like at some point, like I think Homicide's leg falls through the boards, and it was the wildest match. Afterwards, they're like, okay, yeah, we're never doing this again, and of course they'd never done it again.
Was it the LAX versus LAX feud, or Santana?
Yeah, it was like the
Homicide Hernandez.
Yeah, it was the culmination of that feud. I think it was like 2018.
Dude, it's such a shame that Santana and Ortiz hate each other now, because they were such a good tag team.
They were.
Just
said best. He said Bobby Eaton's trying to repair the ring.
Yeah, Zbyszko has the hook, and he's going to murder Sting with the hook, but he missed it.
Nope.
And just
murdered
Bobby in the arm. And I love this, but it's kind of a weak ass finish, because Bobby gets hit, and Sting just puts him in a Fujiwara, and it's just a regular ass arm bar. Like, I don't know.
He could have used the hook like on his like fish hook him or something, or like digging it into his forehead or something like that.
That's what Magnus
Bill Alfonso calls it.
I forgot about that. They should hit him in the knee because then he could have put the scorpion on.
Yeah. And
If this
that's it.
happens- Great match.
Sting Squadron. God, the pop.
Such
All
a great freaking match, man. I love when we do this.
Yeah, it's so fun. I have so much fun just watching old matches. It's just for a podcast. It's great content.
It's the best.
I hope you, the listener, like it as much as JD and I like sitting here watching it and talking about it and going off on side tangents because that's a lot of fun for us. So, but hey guys, I think JD has to get to bed. So I'm gonna let him tap out. The man has to get up early tomorrow. And thank you guys, everybody, for listening. Thank you for those of you that are watching on our YouTube channel as part of Sting Week. And for those of you on Patreon, you're getting this like way early because we're not doing Sting Week until Revolution Week. And I think this video is probably not getting released. So we're in like early February. This is probably not going to get released for like another month. So thank you guys for making this possible. I really appreciate everything you guys do for us. JD and I will be back again next week for another edition of Sting's Greatest Rivals. And if you have an idea, let us know. I think we have to do Hogan, but they never really had a good match against each other. But we could do Hogan. I'd like to do something TNA related. I was thinking maybe something like with the Joker Sting era. I think that would be fun. Or maybe if somebody has like a great rival of Sting, then we could talk about multiple matches. That'd be great. So, drop us a comment, drop us a line. I do think we need to cover something from his TNA era because he was there for like 10 years.
Maybe we do the Foley match we talked about last week. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
Okay. But, all right, guys, thank you everybody for checking the show out. And until next time, mahalo.